So I want to address a few things that people stated when they made their statements, and some of them I agree with, and one of them I looked up. But one of the things I want us to leave with is to know that in civilization, in civilized society, there are those who are trying to create a more humane system. And so I believe the founders of this nation during the Great Enlightenment believed that they were creating a pathway towards a more enlightened society. Now we know that they were not the most enlightened individuals, but we know that they created a pathway to enlightenment. And so when we speak about these issues that are affecting us today, it can get overwhelming and frustrating. And honestly, some days I'm angry, right? Some days I'm furious. Other days I'm exhausted. I'm, full of just complete sadness. And if you watch the videos of Alton Sterling and Philando Castile, what you'll know is that their murders happened in broad daylight, and they happened, one of them was live streamed as he was dying. The other one was filmed on someone's cell phone as he took his last breaths. And so we need to stand together and say, what do we intend to do about this grave injustice? The question is not why or how. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Because there are millions of Americans who are frustrated and angry. And there are millions of Americans who are sad. And there are millions of Americans who disagree with the statement that Black lives do in fact matter. And we are not apologetic. We are not apologetic that that is a threat to white privilege. That threatens the idea that only white lives matter or only all lives matter. What we're saying is, yes, we understand that every life matters. But right now, today, in this moment of history, in this country, we are saying to the nation, Black lives matter. Not that every life doesn't matter, but that Black lives matter. And when we resolve that grave injustice, we will be resolving the issue of all lives being honored, all lives being cared for, all lives being treated as valued in our nation. And so I went to the protest because I'd spent the day, not just the day, but the last 48 hours. I saw the first video, and then I saw the second video. So I was already on the verge of tears, and then the video of Philando Castile came out. And I thought, this is insanity. This is civilized insanity. And so as an activist, I believed in my heart that I needed to take a stand for what is right. And I needed to make my voice heard, especially as a light-skinned person. Now, I don't identify as Anglo. I identify as Latina. I am from a Mexican-American background. But I know with this light skin that I have a certain amount of privilege in this country. And I'm going to use that privilege to scream that Black lives matter. And I encourage everyone to say it. Say it to every Black person, because you are healing the harm that this nation has conducted against generations of people. And I encourage you to go out and act on those things that you feel have to be answered, They won't be answered by the corporate news networks. They're not going to be answered by what you read in the Dallas Morning News. They're not going to be answered by any of those traditional systems of information. But together, each of us can answer that for one another. And I'll leave this saying, there's one particular issue that I really wanted to touch on. I have my master's degree in mental health and counseling. And what we need to be aware of is 2% of humanity are sociopaths. Biologically, it is not a term that, to degrade anyone. They literally cannot empathize biologically with another human being. They understand right and wrong, but they don't understand that if they saw me in tears over someone else dying, they would say, dude, why is she crying? Like, she's not dead. They have a strong sense of, I can see the world from my perspective. They're very deliberate. They're very logical. They make their decisions based on self-motive. And so the strange thing about Western society in this nation is that we actually encourage sociopaths to rise to the top. Because what a sociopath will do is they will say, if I make, so many millions of dollars a year, and I can become a billionaire if I fire hundreds of workers, they're gonna not think about the families that they're destroying economically. They're gonna think about, how do I become a billionaire? Who do I have to get rid of to make me? It's not malicious even. It's just, that's what their goal is. They're not maliciously, intently trying to harm people. They just think, I'm the most important thing on earth, and they don't understand that the rest of us, the 98% of us in humanity, or 99, don't think that way. We actually care about if our neighbor is, sick or dying, or has cancer, or has health care, or has access to education, or has a quality public school for their child to go to. And so when we look at society, we need to recognize that the mental health issue, the mental health aspect of sociopaths, that they affect the way capitalism affects social justice situations. So just be aware. I'll leave with that note, and I want you to know that, if we take all this information and put it together, and we come together to find a solution to these issues that are affecting all of us, we'll all be better off, right? Because if we don't acknowledge that 2% of our population has this issue, if we don't acknowledge that there is a situation where people who are sociopaths gravitate towards positions of power, positions of wealth, they're often CEOs, they're often police officers, they're often politicians, they're people who want that kind of power, and they want to manipulate the rest of the 99%, then we're actually fighting each other, right? We're fighting each other. So let's not fight against each other. Think about what's right. We don't want more deaths in this country. No one does. And there might be some people that say, well, Black Lives Matter, and if someone said Black Lives Matter is causing this situation, blah, blah, blah. But the real question is, the real situation is that there are people manipulating all of us. They are using racism to oppress people, to keep them financially oppressed, economically oppressed. They're using each of us to fight each other, instead of us standing together and saying, we are standing for humanity. We're standing for peace. I don't want anyone to die. I don't want black people to die. I don't want people who are just happen to have some sort of uniform on to die. I don't want you to die because of the color of your skin or where you work or how much money you make or I want us all to live long, healthy, beautiful lives. And so that's what I will leave with you, and let's all work together to make that happen.